So yes, please talk about A.W. Edwards and what it does.
A.W. Edwards is a construction company that's been around for over 100 years. We operate in New South Wales. We have an office in Sydney and another office in Port Macquarie. And we build all sorts of buildings, from data centers to hospitals, schools, community buildings. We're really across all sectors.
Interested in how A.W. Edwards works with Bouygues, its parent company.
So A.W. Edwards was acquired in 2018 by Bouygues Construction, which is an international company that operates in over 80 countries across the world. So Edwards is the building subsidiary in Australia for the Bouygues Group.
Why is A.W. Edwards supporting biodiversity initiatives?
So in 2009, there were 28 internationally renowned scientists who came together and identified what has become known as the planetary boundaries. And these are 9 processes that essentially contribute to the functioning of our global Earth system, biosphere. And these are really, really important. And what they realized was that some of these are heavily threatened today at varying levels. Biodiversity loss is actually the most threatened planetary boundary today, and it's often the least talked about one. So A.W. Edwards is committed to contributing to any kind of action that creates a net positive contribution to the environment. And this means ecological restoration, it means mitigating negative environmental impacts, and it also means having broader discussions about what other creative ways we can come up with to address this threat.
So I'm interested in exploring how A.W. Edwards implements initiatives in the urban environment to help biodiversity.
A.W. Edwards has partnered with PlantingSeeds recently to have workshops on our construction sites with our teams. The first purpose of these workshops is an educational one, so it's for our own teams to better understand these different threats and risks, understand more about endemic plant species, but also pollinators and insects, and to identify the relationships between these different plant species and those pollinators. And the second part of this is not just to talk, but also walk the talk. And so implement specific actions during the workshops, such as planting these endemic species on our sites and also creating various forms of bee habitat that can then support threatened pollinators. And finally, our different site teams are able to then transfer that knowledge within their families or in their community outside of the site activities.
How does A.W. Edwards work with PlantingSeeds to monitor and evaluate biodiversity?
Biodiversity is often very misunderstood, and the first reason for that is that we lack information on the actual species that live on this planet, where they are living, their habitats, and the current state of their populations. In fact, in Australia, only 30% of all species actually known and named today. And there are very few people that are studying insects and a lot of different species in the world today. So we need a lot more information on that. So one of the ways that A.W. Edwards can contribute, and in fact not only A.W. Edwards, but anyone here in New South Wales, is by participating in citizen science initiatives, such as actually observing firsthand, yourselves and myself, where we are, even in urban ecosystems, the species that we do see, and learn more about them through the Atlas of Living Australia, and contribute that knowledge so that we can all be working towards setting that benchmark. It takes a lot of data to understand how these species are doing, and if all together we work towards this common objective, we can achieve a lot more.
How do you see governmental initiatives like the nature repair market that is going to start very soon in Australia playing out, especially in cities and the urban context?
Often people want to take on positive initiatives around biodiversity, but they don't actually know how or what to do or what they can do. So I think it's really important that the dialogue be focused on those tangible solutions that are directed at every sector of society. So solutions that builders can take on, solutions that developers can take on, solutions that governments can take on, that schools can do, and so on, is really key. Everyone needs to be part of the solution. Oftentimes, offsets is the first thing that people turn towards because it's easier to potentially pay for someone else to do something that will bring a positive impact. But the reality is that everywhere where we operate, there are things that we can do that positively contribute to the environment, and that's where the starting point should be. Offsets are great and they're important, but they're not the whole solution.
Why is it important for AW Edwards to support organisations like PlantingSeeds and its program, the Regenerative Corridor Program, the B&B Highway?
I think that people typically act when they feel compelled with meaning, and something that gives meaning is when they feel a sense of place and connection to that story or that meaning. And so when we can tailor this back to a very tangible local native or endemic species that is on the exact site or in the community where we're operating, that the teams can witness and see with their own eyes and touch and help support, it makes it that much more powerful. And we experienced this at AW Edwards with a couple of different workshops that were done with PlantingSeeds, including on one of our site where a local water dragon was identified, and the team learnt about that and felt very excited about it. Another example is the teams that worked on creating bee habitat, specifically the blue-banded bees, where they worked on making clay and sand homes for those bees, essentially created these with their children after, so it created a domino effect with those species. So being able to actually connect this broader global challenge that we have around biodiversity conservation and making it very local with a story that has meaning to people is a very powerful way for people to feel compelled to act. So it's been many, many years that I think most of us have heard about the threat of biodiversity loss, and for some reason in the construction industry, a lot of the discourse is still around reducing our carbon footprint, which is important, but not all-encompassing and holistic of the true environmental challenges that we face. And so having targets around protecting biodiversity conservation, ecological restoration should be at the forefront of all of our projects. And I would encourage all builders to be taking on initiatives like this, working closely with local community groups, outreach groups, such as PlantingSeeds, and any others who are working towards this common goal that we have of supporting biodiversity. And also encourage our clients, whether public or private, to be taking on this very seriously and making it not only a requirement, but a criteria for how you select who you work with and what is key for the projects that you're developing.